I see. I dismiss all that. I look at it from a criminal standpoint. I do. I look at it. Okay, if I'm going to go rob the bank, okay.
Well, that's what it is because it's in a civilian court.
Yeah, but when I go,
it's not a terrorist act. It's a
no. It's a terrorist act.
No, it is a terrorist act.
It's a terrorist act. He's charged under the terrorist act. Oh
right.
no.
Right.
He's not.
But in a civilian court.
No, it's
no.
court.
It's federal court. He's in federal court.
No, but that's a civilian court.
No, yeah, but that's...
Well, yes, it's not a military court.
It's
Yes.
not a military. No, well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, the military court would end the whole situation. He could death penalty there, seriously.
Yeah, a lot more quickly,
and
too.
very fast,
Yeah.
exactly right. But he's in federal court, okay, that's where he is. So I look at it as a criminal act. So when I think about that, when I go out to rob a bank, and whatever I'm going to do, when I was doing bad things, okay, I understood that there could be a possibility of me getting in a firefight and me, okay, somebody getting between me and the money with another gun and everything else. And guess what? That's what I carried a gun for. I knew that if I had the gun out of the thing, guess what? I'm going to take that person out. Over my life, all I want is the money.
But that's the argument for getting rid of the death penalty. Yeah, that's the argument.
For it?
No.
Against it?
Yeah.
Against getting rid of it?
No, Mike is saying it's for getting rid of it.
It's for. That's the argument for getting rid of it. If you don't have the death penalty hanging over your head when you're in the commission of a crime, then you're not going to necessarily be carrying a gun so that you're not caught.
Well,
because you're not.
Well, the death penalty has been proven not to be a deterrent to crime or murder in any case. Yeah. Come on, Russ.
Well, you're talking about.
Here's what I got to say. When you look at where death penalty things are, you have less guys like me going. I'm going to rob an estate that's got no death penalty. I'm going to start. Okay, people think criminals are stupid. Now, of course, now you do not have the amount of robbers you had in my day. They're not there. They cleaned up Charlestown, Massachusetts, the center of bank robbers and armed robbers in the country. So lots of them are in jail, although they're still working on Canada. Okay, where guys are cut, but they're limited crews. They're not like they were in my day. They're just not. You get imbecile bank robbers now that do it. They need a druggy thing. They go in for $4 grand and they get 13 years. They're so stupid. But they're a different type of person. This person is more like me and my type of organizational. He's deliberate. They were deliberate. He was trained. He was educated. They knew what they were doing. And they went after citizens. If they went after military,
okay. Well, we had two trials going on concurrently.
Right.
Now, to me, the second trial was more heinous in one sense. You had Aaron Hernandez, a very popular and very rich professional football player for the New England Patriots.
Gang
member. Killed his best friend. Mm-hmm. He's also accused of killing 2 others. There'll be a second trial.
Right.
But the fact that it's a civil, it's not a federal case, no death penalty. So he is life in prison.
Right. And you know what I see the difference is? It was between them, gang members. That's exactly what I'm saying. They weren't going after civilians. He didn't kill civilians, even if he killed the other ones. It was related to what he was doing. It would be like what I would be doing. I'm talking about when I was a young man and a kid to my audience out there. I had somebody who said, "You were dangerous, Father." Well, maybe. But this is the thinking. I am telling you the thinking behind clowns like I was myself. That is a personal, interrelated, gang-to-gang or stuff versus going after private citizens that are innocent. Okay. There's a difference to me.
Yes, but there's also a secondary issue, which is evidence. Okay,
well,
the Tsarnaev.
yeah.
Okay, it was questionable whether Hernandez was going to
Did
be
it?
found guilty.
Right. Oh, yeah,
did it.
very good. Right.
But they, I know, but he was found guilty
Would
on all
never
charges.
find me guilty of that stuff, I hope.
I think we have enough evidence on him.
Do you understand where I'm coming from? I mean, you were in the military. I mean, but even in the Troubles, right? Wasn't that about more military to military? And then they went to civilian stuff. Which is,
No, the IRA. I mean, anything was a legitimate target as far as they were concerned.
oh, okay.
Everything, and everything, and they bombed relentlessly throughout the UK. I lived through the whole thing,
I know you did.
so and the only thing that stopped it, literally the only thing that stopped it, was when Tony Blair was elected, and as soon as we've got the Republicans, or the Conservatives, they call them there, out of the way, then you could start talking to them. You could start talking to the Provisional IRA. And eventually we brought in Senator Mitchell,
Yeah.
the US Senator,
U.S.
George Mitchell,
Right,
George
yes.
Mitchell for me.
yeah,
right.
to oversee the negotiations. And basically it stopped then.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, coming back to my point, is that the Tsarnaev incident is one of an endless list of incidents to do with problems associated in other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And until those are resolved, the Tsarnaev incident will potentially happen all the time. And I'm amazed that there hasn't been more. Probably the FBI and the CIA have thwarted dozens and dozens of them.
Right, I agree.
And they're petrified. There was a headline in USA Today yesterday about ISIL that all the various agencies are going flat out, trying to identify and using all the various techniques because they're concerned of an ISIL attack in the United States. And ISIL is very aggressively recruiting, particularly in social media, particularly through their own little propaganda videos to recruit people to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so what happens if there's another incident? The public's in an uproar. I don't know. It's because it is not so cut and dried. If the evidence, like in the Tsarnaev case, was overwhelming, you can make a case. But we see too many incidents where the evidence is flawed, or it's been tampered, or there are issues with it. You're involved in one of those with Ralph Hamm.
Oh, yes, I am. Yeah, exactly right.
So,
yeah,
okay.
right.
So what's going on with Ralph's situation? And we found, there are various stories that have come out about other people who have been put on death row for years and years and years.
And years and are innocent. I understand. I do, but I see them as different, very, very different entities. I mean, you're talking about the police in Ralph's case, where they took the two older guys and they threatened them and through affidavit. In fact, one of them got released because of the proof. The police in New York and Massachusetts threatened the guy and put a gun to his head and told him they were going to kill him. And they said, well, of course, Ralph did it. Ralph, because he was the kid. Okay, and they were not. They were not. Well, and again, but I see that very, very different than a terrorist, deliberate terrorist act. I just view it in a very different circumstances.
Well, there are those.
And I want them dead.
Well, there are those out there.
You know what I mean?
There are those out there who don't believe that Tsarnaev did it. There's a whole conspiracy group out there. Not Mike, but there's a whole conspiracy group out
we
there.
got them on film. They got them from one place to the other place to the other place.
I understand all that, Russ.
I mean, if whatever they think, God bless them. But you know,
there's groups out there who believe this is a false flag operation.
You know what?
And a false flag operation is supposed to be deliberately created by the United States government for propaganda reasons,
Good.
generally to create fear in the rest of the world. And it's nonsense. But there are those people in the U.S. and elsewhere who believe this.
I got the same thing with Guantanamo. I mean, we take people that are terrorists, been down there, turn them loose, bring them back, let them go to their country so they can return to doing the same thing and planning the same things they did before. Now, see, from my perspective, God help me. And that's why Jesus is my straight back. I would execute all of them. I would. I just,
even
because you get rid of the threat.
The only problem with Guantanamo, as you know, is that
I wouldn't have tortured them.
They were tortured, so therefore you can't try them in a civilian court because none of the evidence against them is admissible. So you're not going to get a case.
You're not going to get a case for them.
So
right.
And that was basically.
But see, I saw that as military, and I think, and that's why military has different rules of trying people.
And not all of them were terrorists. Some of them were there as incidental observers.
You know.
So, Russ, it's about a question.
I hear you.
Russ, as a holy man, what's the value of a human life?
I don't want to get wholly into it.
Oh, yes, it is.
Well, no.
It's a moral issue.
Yeah, as a holy man, okay, I'm in real trouble. Okay, you threaten my own. As a holy man, guess what? The only thing I can do is do the defense of that. And I have a right as a holy man to defend my own. Now, the definition of my own, whether if I'm an American citizen and everything else, include the population of the United States of America, or it includes my immediate family, however that may be personal. But as a holy man, I believe, as a holy man, that I have the right, the absolute right, to defend my own by any means necessary. By any means necessary. And if that is eliminating the other side and that threat, I'm going to do it. That is where I am as a holy man. Okay? Now, obviously, I said defend my own. That means I have to have an action against. Okay? That's why I'm one of those guys that I'm not able to take a threat because of the lifestyle I've made. You know, I've had people say, well, I'm gonna kill you. You say those things to me, you better watch out. Okay, you better watch out because all the people I grew up with they meant it. 66 guys died in the Italian wars, in the gang wars of Matt. 66 of them, okay? Some I knew, some I didn't know. 4 of my friends, okay? They got blown away. I got a guy who got blown away because he was a friend and said, I don't want to be involved in this. He didn't want to be involved. And he went outside the bar and in the back room, and they blew him away. Yeah, you didn't want to be involved. Hey, you are involved. You made a choice once. And this was over. You know what this was over? Nothing but an insult to some stupid woman up in Peabody, Mass. It was disgusting. And a bunch of assassins and stuff. So when people threaten, I go, look at me, I'm on TV and my buttons are pushed.
We did a good job of that, yeah.
Yeah, you did. Well, you both did. You both did.
Well, but part of the issue is redemption. Now, he was 19 at the time. He's 21 now.
Oh, I know the brain theory too. I mean, you know, Miller versus, you know, I mean, I just worked my rear end off for 1.5 years to get the sentencing structure done on life on, but and I understand.
But so Ken Zarnik can be redeemed, and then you get into the Muslim religion and its belief in that. It's not Christian. These are not easy or issues. They're not. It raises a whole level of a level.
I don't like the religious aspect being brought into any of these things. Killing is killing. I don't like you, I kill you. No.
There's not a
If you're in a
religious
war-
aspect to the law?
Huh?
There's not a religious aspect
Of
to the
course,
law?
that's the problem. Doesn't mean, that's a lot, there's a lot of problems in there. And how you, I mean, gee, because I end up sounding like Scalia for crying out loud here in my interpretation of whatever it is. But I think there's a very different thing when you have a military action and you're dealing for differences or whatever versus this kind of stuff. The terrorist stuff. However, I also, as a student of war, understand the use of that. I guess that's my problem. I guess my real problem is I understand that kind of stuff too well.
He did a terrorist act, but was he a terrorist?
Well, see, that's exactly right. That's exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
And if he isn't, he's tried in the wrong court. That could be.
That could
See,
be.
now, as we discuss this, obviously this is emotional, and as we discuss that, but you're right. If he was a warrior, he's in the wrong court.
Yes. And if he was a warrior,
Yeah.
who did he answer to? I mean, all that we know is that presumably that he and his brother were radicalized by their mother, who is big. Mother's a crazy case.
See, we're going to get, my poor audience is going to get carried away because we could end up talking about the lone wolf and all this stuff, and I'm going to lose them because they are not. I could lose a lot of my audience because they may not know what we're discussing here. When we talk about war and military, you got three guys here at the table that are students of history, of wars, of Sun Tzu and all those individuals. You got at least two of us, you military, gang leader, and operative. So when I could lose my audience when I said, who is responsible for a lone wolf's act of terrorism? A lone wolf is somebody who operates under an ideology. Okay, for those who don't understand what I'm saying. And it could be Christian, could be Muslim, could be whatever ideology, and they think they're operating on the ideals, and they execute stuff without having a leader or anybody they're responsible to, and they operate alone. Okay, but they believe they're operating for the greater group that they represent. How's about that? Is that pretty good with the lone wolf?
Yeah.
Am I good?
Okay. McVeigh was a lone wolf.
But the wider picture of
maybe not.
the
That's
Chechen
right.
problem. That was a major conflagration by the Russians suppressing the Chechen people.
Exactly.
I mean, they slaughtered.
You're talking genocide.
Oh
yeah,
almost
genocide. Almost all genocide. Almost pretty close. If it was, don't we term that as being a genocide? Whatever happened there, with the amount of killings that happened there. I mean, historically, I mean didn't even the Pope say that, I believe.
But the train, the pathway to a connection to what's happening in the Middle East now, so what's happened over the last 20 years, is clear. It comes through the Islamic faith. It comes, to some extent, it also has roots in the continuing disaster that is the Palestinian problem, vis-a-vis Israel. These are not unconnected, and there's. If you have an Islamic, military option or a military situation, America goes in with 500,000 troops and totally obliterates it. Any resistance. So therefore, just like they've done before in the past, the best, the Sun Tzu. And Mao's books on how to defeat.
It's how to defeat it.
Exactly the same thing.
Same thing
at General Dieppe did in Vietnam.
Right.
And that is, you know, it's a terrorist.
It's a terrorist act.
It's a terrorist act.
It's a terrorist act.
And now you have this growth out of that of lone wolves. In other words, that nobody controls them.
No. Except
nobody controls them.
They're controlled by the ideology of what they believe.
Encouragement
and they
from
get
the center.
Yeah, from the center. Like
do
these writers.
whatever they can.
Yeah, well, there's these writers that are on the damn internet, okay, egging them on. And you're right, and now you're going to get me too, right, making heroes out of it. But this guy's a hero already. Whether you kill him or not, he's a hero. Osama bin Laden was a hero.
He's a hero to some. We don't want to make a martyr.
We don't want to make him martyr.
He's a hero to some, but
he's not.
He's not.
Osama a martyr?
Oh, for sure.
To some, in the Islamic world, yes.
For sure.
Like, do you think anything would happen different if we didn't? He'd be sitting someplace giving orders.
He was pretty well isolated. He was
giving
well
orders.
isolated.
Yeah, he was isolated, still giving orders. So in his cell, he probably had better access through his lawyers.
Oh, he was certainly communicating. But
yeah.
Very, very, you know, it was very difficult.
I know. This is a great discussion. I love this kind of, you know, obviously.
To some extent, that the guy in Baghdad who was in charge of it, I think is Baghdadi.
Yeah, whatever.
When the Americans were fighting the war,
right,
or the conflict, it isn't officially a war.
Whatever. We don't have.
Osama bin Laden thought he was just basically a thug. He was, you know, he wasn't a very intelligent man, and he was nothing more than just a local sort of you know, criminal basically, and you know, so the connections with that are there. They are attenuated, but they're definitely there, and you can't. But the thing is, you can't bring that into a court of law in America, and he's essentially stateless. Yeah. He may be American citizen, or he may be American, may have a green card, but essentially he's Chechen, but he's fighting a cause which is bigger than just Chechnya.
Yeah.
No, I believe he was an American citizen, but he
was.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's all, you know, we want certainty. We want moral certainty. And when you get and as a journalist,
right,
I want the facts.
Yeah, I know you do.
I want detail.
Right.
I want clarity. Some things there's no clarity. You know, I can draw two different conclusions from the same, in this case, from the same set of information. One says he should be put into this little concrete hole in the wall for the remaining aspects of his life, and that will solve and that will satisfy the need for punishment in society. You can also draw the conclusion that what he did was so heinous that his life should be terminated, because given the set of circumstances, there is no redemption. He would do it again. There's both valid arguments.
Right.
That's the problem.
That is a problem, you're right.
They're both valid arguments of the same set of information. Now, what complicates the matter is the more that we evaluate what's gone on legally, is that a lot of the things that we believe to be true about the validity of evidence is not necessarily true. That we believe that the innocence of or that the people in law enforcement and others are playing it straight. We know that they're not always playing it straight. In the case of the FBI crime lab, they were not playing it straight.
Well, yeah, again, but I don't see that. I don't see that in this situation.
Not in this situation,
okay.
but the death penalty, in general.
As we look at the death penalty in general, you know that I'm in complete agreement with you. I mean, that's why I voted against the death penalty here in Connecticut, okay, because of the operation, because of all the complications, because of that. And again, on an overall level, I'm in agreement with you on the death penalty. Again, I just, as I said, and I need to clarify, I always clarify myself, terrorism rises to a different level. I see a big difference. See, you compare what he did with what's his name?
Hernandez?
Hernandez did, and I see them as two very, very different things. And I see Hernandez's stuff as very personal, very, very tied into the gang-related bull crap and personal within the gang. And within that, and I don't necessarily believe those individuals that were killed were innocents. Okay, much like I would say if I did, if I was involved in my own gangland stuff, we were all personal. The gang wars of Boston were not bringing in. All of the individuals had criminal subculture society. Nobody was going out and killing some poor lady and baby and something like that. That's not what they were killing each other over personal vendetta stuff. And I see that very different than if you went and you blew up somebody, okay, that had nothing to do with anything. And I think even if I did it, they can execute me because it shouldn't have happened.
Yep. But what Mike and I are saying
that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but what Mike and I are saying is that Hernandez case is pretty much cut and dried. And other than the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills and New York Jets happy that they took out the star wide receiver for the Patriots, in the Tsarnaev case, it's in a bigger context because it is in the war against terrorism. And
Exactly right.
And so it has international implications.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I don't have to decide this. You may all be glad I don't have to decide this.
I'm glad that I don't have to decide it.
Okay, but we have a judge that's going to decide this.
We have a jury that's going to decide it.
Oh, he gave it to the jury. Well, he could override it. He can override the jury, right? In the federal court, I believe so.
I believe so, but
we'll probably go with the jury. And once the jury gets a hung jury, then they'll throw it to the judge.
Oh, it's got to be 12.
Huh?
It's got to be 12.
Oh, it's got to be a unanimous.
Yes.
Unanimous and a 12-man jury in this thing.
And a jury that's been impaneled now
All you need
for.
is one guy thinking like Mike, and he's not gonna go to the death penalty.
The thing is, you don't know what I think.
Well, I was just gonna say the other side. You got me there. You don't know what you think.
Well, you know what
I don't know what I think. I know what I think. I think.
Yeah, I said Mike. Where I was pointing.
Okay. Yeah. Him.
Well, to me, it's just it's life.
And we just go through it and throw the sucker away for the rest of his life.
That's it.
I wish I could come to that. I really do wish I could come to that. Okay, and I just I haven't made that leap yet. And then part of that is my own prejudice and my own, my own experience. And I just haven't been able to say that. Although I did put to rest a lot of my own vendetta feelings about people and said that's it.
I actually remember I remember the arguments at the time in the sort of